So today we are going to do a 300-hour service on our 2020 Yamaha Sho 225 outboard. This service is going to include the standard 100-hour with the addition of replacing the water impeller. At this particular time, we have decided not to replace the anodes or thermostat. All right, guys, we're going to use this 5mm Allen, and we're going to take off this side cover to get to where the oil drain is on this 225 Sho. Oh my goodness. This one's gonna need some grease. Make sure you get the Phillips head out of here. It's gonna release the plastic side cover. There's two of them on this point right here. So make sure you get both of them. So once you get all of the bolts and screws out of the plastic side plate, you're gonna then slide it forward. Don't try to push it too hard and break it, but there's two little pins right there that are gonna hold it in. See these two little pins right here? You just wanna push it forward and get free of those, and then boom, side cover's off. All right, so you wanna make sure that you get a bucket to drain all this oil in. Some people have contraptions that they've made that'll hang on here and hold the bucket under. We don't have one of those. So we're just gonna have to very slowly drain it and just manually make sure that we don't make too big a mess. So we'll see what we can do.
Let's not make a huge mess.
Oh, that guy was a little tight.
Let's get that bucket.
Nope, and we made a mess. Well, we tried. Little oil never hurt anyone. Yeah, make sure if you make a mess, you clean it up nice after yourself. All right, so next, we're gonna get the oil filter, change that out. Luckily, the way they built this one, it's nice and easy to get into. I'm gonna see if I can get it off with my hand. If not, we'll have to use a filter wrench on it, which we probably will, but sometimes you get lucky. We couldn't find the proper tool for the job, go figure, but we ended up using adjustables and it worked. If you want, you can get a towel in here, some paper towels, whatever you got available, because it's gonna drip. So this will help catch some of it when you get this oil filter off. Right, look at that. Actually, no issues. Came right off, no mess. So we're trying to beat the rain. Hopefully we do, because who wants to do this when we're wet? Official Yamaha oil filter. Always just go with OEM. Aftermarket stuff's never going to be as good. There, help get a seal. And you can always just hand tighten these things. No one ever needs to crank it on there. Just give it a nice little snugness. Never use a wrench to tighten these things. Some of these old school guys will tell you to quarter turn it more. All you're doing is making too much of a seal, and it's really hard to get off later. This thing ain't leaking at all. All right, so we've changed the oil filter. We've drained out all the old engine oil. We're gonna put the plug back in. We're gonna fill her up, put some of that liquid gold in her. All right, guys, we're gonna fill her up on these motors here. It is 6.8 quarts without the oil filter and 7.1 with the oil filter, just so you know, 7.1 quarts. And one more thing, make sure you're using Yamalube. Your engine will thank you. All right, so underneath each one of these coils is where the spark plugs sit under there. These are the coil packs that actually power the spark plugs and synergize them to give them the spark. So we're just going to do one at a time, make it nice and easy. You don't want to just go crazy, take all of everything off. It's one at a time, make your task easy. All right, so just be gentle with them. Don't try to snatch them out, pull on them too hard. I mean, they're pretty durable, but you know, obviously just be careful when you're disconnecting these. Yeah, so on these engines here, the spark plug is super deep back in there. So make sure you have a very long, I would say at least 8-inch or more extension. All right, so we're just going to repeat the process for each one individually. You know, you're just going to get it back in there, nice and easy. Make sure it gets in there. Try not to cross thread it. That would ruin your day real quick, because you're going to turn this simple little project into, you know, thousands of dollars of sadness. And make sure you do not over tighten these as well. You don't need to. Just snug them in there nicely. All right, so we got all the spark plugs done. The full oil change for the motor, oil filter. Our next project we're going to be working on is the fuel filter itself. It's located right here in the front of the engine, and it's got a little cover here and a couple 10mm bolts. These are all 10 millimeters. We're just going to take those off and get this little housing out of here that holds the fuel filter. So if you don't own one, these little swivel heads for your socket set, get one in each size. They come in handy when you're getting in little tight places and you need a little angle to get in there. Definitely save you some frustration and curse words. Once you get the housing off, you got your little plate off, unplug it, and then it just screws right off of this housing. Nothing fancy, no special tools needed. It just unscrews. The little fuel filter will be inside there. You just pull it out, and then you're going to pop the new one in. It only goes one way. Rubber seal side up. Can't confuse it. All right, so we're going to put back on the plastic side cover. Get it there nice and good. Get a little red lithium grease on there. Make sure these things don't seize up later. It's clearly a day to be working on the boat, not to be in it. All right, up to this point, we've done the oil change, spark plugs, fuel filter. We put the plastic side cover back on and got everything cleaned up nice up here. The next step in this project is we're going to do the lower unit gear oil. So we're going to start by taking this little piece off right here with a 4mm Allen wrench, and that's going to be where the bottom drain is, and then this is the top vent to allow it to drain, but we always start here. All right, everybody, this is day 2. Unfortunately, due to the weather, we had to stop work yesterday. Rainstorm came in, pushed a little cold front. We also did run into another issue yesterday, which kind of held us up. If you get to these here, it's just 2 pieces of plastic held together with a through bolt, and sometimes that nut on the other side will strip out, and unfortunately you're going to have to break this off with a hammer and a screwdriver very carefully, and you're going to have to cut that bolt out of there, or possibly get a pliers on each side and break that free. So that's going to be our project today, is this, so that we can drain the gear lube, and then we're going to get this lower unit down and change the impeller. All right, so one of the easiest ways to get to it is once you bust in there, kind of get the little nuts right here. So you want to kind of just bust the plastic off of it inside there. It'll pop off. Yeah, this guy's a little culprit here. They'll spin inside that plastic and it just, you know, you can't get it off. So now that we've got the plastic covers out of the way, I'm going to put a wrench on this and pliers on the other side and get it out. All right, guys, unfortunately right here we lost audio due to our cheap Amazon Bluetooth mics. Thanks, Joey. To go over what's going on right here in the video, we're going to take off and undo the lower unit's drain plug down there on the bottom. And as you can see, we checked the magnet on it. All of it, the metal shavings, that's normal. It looks good. It's all very fine shavings. You only have to worry if you feel chunks. All right, so here we're going to take off the cotter pin to get to the prop nut, get that off. We're going to remove the prop and we're going to inspect the shaft, the prop seals, and make sure that we don't have a bunch of debris, monofilament, or braid in here causing any issues. All right, so once we got off the prop, everything looked really clean. It was surprising to find nothing in there. We cleaned it up real nice. We removed any debris that we saw with a light wire wheel, got it cleaned and prepped and ready to put back together. All right, so here we're using a little pump kit that connects right to the gear lube bottle. I'm actually connected to the top vent part first. I like to flush some clean fluid through before I refill it, just to get out any loose particles and kind of get some of that old fluid out. All right, now it's time to fill the lower unit back up. It takes about 2 quarts. Just remember, when you're pumping it, you might see some air bubbles coming out, and you'll think it's full, but just keep filling it and you'll know when it's actually full. It'll gush out really thick. All right, now it's time to clean her and plug her up. All right, so now we're going to drop the lower unit so that we can change out that impeller and clean up everything down in there. Make sure you remember when you're dropping this lower unit that you don't want to take off all the nuts and bolts in case it falls. You want to leave one and just loosen that one. All right, so this is the anode. It helps prevent electrolysis on the engine parts. Very important. So also there's a couple bolts under there that are holding the lower unit on. You want to get those out as well, but you definitely want to inspect that anode and make sure if it needs to be replaced to do that. Now, when you're taking off the lower unit here, you're just going to give it a good wiggle. Sometimes you might have to take a rubber mallet and kind of tap around it to get it loose, but it should pull straight out once it breaks free. Right here, there's going to be a speedometer cable. Some of them, they have a plug that goes straight in, but this one obviously did not have a cable. All right, guys, if you don't have a lower unit stand, any pallet you find in your backyard will work just fine. Here we have your impeller housing. This is the water pump housing. It's going to have inside of it your impeller. We're going to inspect it to make sure that there's no damage, dry rot, or cracks. All right, lo and behold, any second now we should have some audio because the mics decided to work again. So there's no damage to the water impeller cup, but obviously there's some corrosion there we need to clean up, and this seal is definitely going to need to be replaced. All right, so we kind of skipped through a few steps to get some stuff going. We got the impeller housing off, cleaned everything up real nice in there, put some lube we took the cup off, lubed up the washer that's on the inside at the top of this cup, put it on it and properly back in its place. You got to line it up with these tabs. Same thing here, give it a lot of grease, get it back in there, that way it's snug and doesn't come loose. We did this entire area, probably overkill, but too much lube never hurt. Shaft, we got the entire shaft. Again, probably not necessary for this part. It's on there. This one actually lines up with the little tab right there. Just got to make sure you line it up with that. All right, that's good. Gonna help the housing slide on here. All right, so a little trick when you're getting this housing back on is you want to make sure that the impeller that you put in is curved to the correct angle inside the cup. So as you're putting the housing back on, you want to spin it clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on which way your impellers go, to get those inside the cup facing the correct direction. And make sure when you're putting that impeller on that the groove that lines up on the shaft is in the correct, because it'll go on either way if you mush it the wrong way. So make sure that this is facing down. All right, it's time to get this thing back on the motor. I left that grease on there because I figured you can never have too much grease for protection. All right, you're gonna line this shaft back up in there. Get in your home. Come on. All right. After a considerable amount of wiggling, we found its home. Gonna make sure we line that speedometer shaft up. Get it in there. Get in your home. There we go. All right, let's get them on there. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not, but it's like Alfred Hitchcock around here with his crows at this dude's house. I feel like they're gonna come get me at any minute. You can never have too much grease. Whoop. Draw the anode. All right, so far we got the lower unit reinstalled, fresh gear oil in it, new impeller, everything's been cleaned, lubed, gear greased up. So we got the prop back on. We're just gonna hand tighten this prop nut or castle nut, depending on what you want to call it. All right, guys, so that completes our 300-hour service on this 225 2020 Sho. We just to reiterate what we went and did for that 300-hour service was fuel filter, spark plugs, oil change with oil filter, lower unit gear oil. We inspected, cleaned the prop, greased that up, and we also replaced the impeller and cleaned the housing and re-greased all of that up. We do need to finish off greasing the zerk fittings on all of the steering and the tilt and trim. We got to get this thing ready because we do got a lot of tarpon coming up. It's tarpon season. They're out there biting right now. So like and subscribe for more videos and see us hook up some of those Silver Kings.